has been actively pursuing civil rights for more than a century. Prior to the Civil War, the city was home to the second largest and most prosperous population of free people of color in the entire South. The city's professionals, artisans, and tradespeople trace their roots back to the time when New Orleans was a French and Spanish colony, between its founding in 1718 and its purchase by the United States from France in 1803. During this time, there were also multiple paths by which some enslaved people actually could gain their freedom. In the 1790s, the most successful slave revolt in human history took place in the French colony of Saint-Domingue. On January 1st, 1804, after defeating Napoleon's efforts to re-enslave them, Saint-Domingue's black population established the country of Haiti, the first independent black republic in the world. Black and white refugees, displaced from the warfare, fled to New Orleans by way of Cuba. Their arrival in 1809 and 1810 doubled the city's population and almost tripled the size of its free black community. On this narrow ribbon of land along the banks of the Mississippi River, the most idealistic of these skilled tradesmen and artisans introduced French and Haitian revolutionary ideals. As the Civil War drew nearer, the rights enjoyed by New Orleans' black middle class were stripped away, as arbitrary racial distinctions became the basis of one's legal status. That was the spark which ignited this unique community to mobilize and join forces with those recently emancipated in pursuit of racial equality. Although at the outbreak of the Civil War, some free men of color served in the Home Guard, when the Confederate city was captured, Black New Orleanians were among the first to form volunteer companies to join the Union soldiers. From their ranks rose Captain Andre Caillou, who had once been enslaved, and who would go on to become one of the first black officers to serve in the United States Army. Captain Caillou's death, leading a doomed assault against Confederate forces at Port Hudson, galvanized New Orleans' black community into action. As men raced to enlist, a wealthy doctor founded 2 newspapers dedicated to preaching equality for all men of African descent, both those from the older free black community and those recently emancipated during the war. Dr. Louis Roudanet's words would be put into action following the end of the war, when black men, representing nearly half of the delegates to the Louisiana Constitutional Convention, crafted one of the most racially progressive state constitutions created during Reconstruction. It protected voting rights for all men and guaranteed equal access to schools and public transportation for all black Louisianians. Freed people from Louisiana and Mississippi gravitated to New Orleans. They multiplied economic opportunities through unions and mutual aid and benefit societies. The promise of equality, however, was greeted with relentless white supremacist intimidation, voter suppression, and violence. Black New Orleanians resisted every attempt by white lawmakers to reverse the racial equality achieved during Reconstruction, notably the passage of the state's 1890 law that separated railroad passengers according to their race. They formed a citizens committee and selected their light-skinned colleague, Homer Plessy, to test the law's legality, mandating racial separation. Plessy boarded the East Louisiana Railway's number 8 train at the Press Street Depot and intentionally sat in the white-only section. His arrest enabled the committee to challenge the constitutionality of the Separate Car Act. The case ultimately made its way to the United States Supreme Court, which in 1896 upheld the Louisiana law, requiring equal, separate access to transportation. The equal, of course, was fiction. The separate, however, was mandatory. It would be 58 years before the United States Supreme Court would override that ruling in Brown versus Board of Education. During that time, as Black New Orleanians built universities, hospitals, new businesses, and created perhaps America's most original art form, jazz, they never relented in their pursuit of racial equality. They never relented in their pursuit of racial equality. Throughout American history, Black New Orleanians have made outsized contributions to our country's continuing fight for equal rights, a role for which their remarkable history of service and struggle well prepared them.